All right, so we're back. Part two, continuing our discussion on Kanye's My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy 2010 album. Starting off right away, Dom, get us right into it because I know this is the song you most wanted to talk about.
So, Devil in a Jew Dress, starring Rick Ross. At the second last bit of the song, basically, it's a whole story about a girl being along with Kanye. However, the girl isn't as interested and more interested in just about Kanye's wealth and his basically fame and personality. And Kanye is essentially speaking that she's, I guess, how would you say it, attracted the bad personality traits, essentially saying that she's learned not from Christianity, but from Satan himself. And we see more throughout the song with Kanye that while she does try to line up mood with humor, it ultimately just ends up failing because although Kanye does love such humor, Kanye knows that she's not interested for him, but just for the money, his fame, and as such. And how would you say it? Kanye knows that he's in the situation where he wants to be with somebody. However, he cannot find someone who's just there for him, but instead just for his money. And at some point, Kanye knows the situation at hand, and the girl is essentially quiet the entire time. As at the end of his verse, at the end of his part of the song, he states, "Cat, guard your tongue." In other words, saying the girl is probably, I would say embarrassed and stating the truth, as in she knows she's going in for his money, his fame, his popularity, but Kanye can't, obviously he's not going to want someone who's just there, not for him, but for the fame. And then we go into a bit of a transition with the guitar. Not only that, but I also want to talk about the sample. The sample itself by Smokey Robinson. Absolute perfect sample. I don't know how Kanye did it. I'm not sure if you guys have ever seen Tracklibs. It's a channel on YouTube that basically shows how artists sample specific parts of songs from different tracks, different albums, see how they combine all one together to make the original track that the artist has made. And for Devil in a Dress, it was simply one song, Smokey Robinson, Will You Love Me Tomorrow? And he only picked out, Kanye only picked out three parts of the song, like I think 3 seconds each. So, and combining them made this absolute insane, not insane, I'm over exaggerating here, but a very nice tone, a very nice beat per se, and along with Kanye's beat being the producer in the background, it absolutely flowed nicely along with the guitar and the bass as well. And then we also come to the part 2 of the song, Rick Ross's part. Basically, and for those who don't know, the story of what happens with the second part is that before the song was released, Rick Ross gave out his first pitch bars per se to Kanye, and Kanye didn't like it first time. And knowing Rick Ross, he's not one to, throw him back into the studio because you didn't enjoy the first time, But Rick Ross understood. He went back into the studio and came back with this absolute banger. I don't think, as of today, no one knows, except for Rick Ross, and I guess I would assume some of his own associates would know what the original verses were. But what we will have now, Kanye absolutely loved it. And this is what we have. And so, basically, with Rick Ross's verse ending off the second part of the song, he basically accentuates his own wealth, his own, how would you say, his own, I guess, humble beginnings, knowing Kanye beforehand, before everything happened, but as well as talking about his own, I guess, beginnings, as well as, how would you say, with importing drugs, and coming to today, I guess the present time at that time, where he makes a lot of money. He has so many cars where people are doubting him, such as the DMV, where they believe he was doing mail fraud because he has so many vehicles under his name. But understanding such risks that he involves himself with, during that point in time, he knows that he's always dancing with the angel of death. In other words, he knows that there's risks being involved that he's taking. However, he's still making the most out of it. But at the same time, knowing that he's going to have to tread lightly so that he doesn't go into some sort of downfall in any way possible. In terms of like making beef with other artists, in terms of any financial struggles, in terms of, you know, him and himself of his mental, I guess, prowess, or I'm not sure how you say it. And personally, listening to Rick Ross's second part, this part, it was, how would you say it? To me personally, it feels like it doesn't matter what position you are in life, even if you're like a broke guy. Listening to Rick Ross's part makes you feel like you're rich. Like if you're like going through downtown, you know, seeing all of the, you know, the city lights and stuff like that. And what I'm gonna finish soon, but what I also enjoyed is the brute force that Rick Ross brings into this. Like he's brutally honest in his tone. He doesn't change anything up, and he just rolls along with it the entire song, including his, you know, his little infamous grunt noise when he's, you know. Personally, those grunt noises always, how would you say, hype me up for some reason. But yeah. Aside from that, absolute banger of a song. What kind of does get me a little bit angry is that on Apple Music, when you look at a specific, when you look at an entire album, it gives like little stars on the side of the song to portray like the flagship songs. And for some reason, Devil in a New Dress is not displayed as a star song in this album for whatever reason. I'm pretty sure. I don't know why, but
I've had Apple Music
What do you
for
mean?
years, and I didn't know that's what the star meant.
yeah, the star is basically. Oh my! Wait, what did you say, Jay?
There's a star next to Devil in the Red Dress, in the new dress.
For me, it doesn't show. Or maybe I don't know why.
I'm looking at it right now. It's just a big star right next to it.
Is it the deluxe version by any chance? Because I'm just looking at the first version. It is?
Uh-huh.
Okay. Well, I don't know why I'm listening to this version, but okay. Well, for some reason, for me, it doesn't show. I'm assuming the deluxe version. It was the more popular version. I would assume that one did get the flagship star. Okay, so maybe I'm incorrect about that. I'll admit. But anyways, Devil in a New Dress, absolutely enjoyed it. And for some reason, I don't know if it's me, but songs, you know, dark fantasy, power, all the lights, Devil in a New Dress, and the next songs like Runaway that we'll talk about, feel completely different as to compared to the other songs. And I don't know why. Like Devil in a New Dress sounds modern in today's standards as compared to like the other songs. I'm not, you know, like Soul Paul sounds completely different as to Devil in a New Dress, if that makes sense. And I don't know why that it is for me, but it just sounds like how would you say it? Not the feeling, but how would you say it? The point in time?
Yeah, it definitely gives a sense of like it feel like you can recognize what era of time the music came from.
Yeah. Like for some reason, for me, Devil in a New Dress sounds completely different, as if this were to be a modern Kanye song compared to the other songs. Oh, I mean, along with Power, Dark Fantasy, but this song, particularly for me personally, just feels out of place in a good way. But that's that for me.
I just quickly want to say, I just want to bring this up as a little joke. It is in no way to discourage you, Dom, because that was an excellent analysis, and I loved it. Your analysis of that song probably went longer than the song itself.
Was that like longer than like what was it, 3-4 minutes?
Well, the song in actuality is about like close to 6 minutes, and we're at the 10-minute mark.
Oh.
But your analysis was very good. I enjoyed it, and you know, it's basically like all the stuff I love about the song too. As you said, both men fit perfectly, but Rick Ross definitely is the highlight of it. And the one cool part that like Kanye mentioned too, that was like, you know, very experimental of him to do, was to have that Mike Dean guitar solo be an interlude, and you think that's just the closing, like, you know, you're closing out the song with a guitar solo, that you wouldn't even know Rick Ross was on it unless, you know, obviously it says, if it wasn't saying featuring Rick Ross, you would automatically write that off and assume that's the end of the song because it's a guitar solo but you don't know it's an interlude until if you listen to it long enough. Boom, Rick Ross comes at the end to finish up the song, and it was really good.
Exactly.
I really enjoyed this song too. It's definitely one of the biggest highlights. It's a classic, of course. It's one of the songs that makes this album and really gives it that grandiose feel to it.
Agreed.
Like I don't know, just hear it. Like anytime the song comes on, it's one of those that you're almost obliged to just carry out the rest of your, like, whatever you're doing, you have to let it play out.
True.
Which is another similar thing I'll have for a later track. But Gio, what were your thoughts?
I was looking at the lyrics right now as Dominic was talking, and the last two lines that he says, "I'm making love to the angel of death, catching feelings, never stumble, retracing my steps." That's a cold bar right there. That's very cold. That's ice cold. That's Antarctica cold. But anyways, I really liked what you were just talking about, the interlude between Kanye's verse and Rick Ross. I really like how, I don't know, it kind of feels like towards like, it's not like the exact middle point, but it's kind of like, if you were to just listen to it, you kind of feel like the transition between Kanye's side of the song to Rick Ross, because like the chords, it like kind of, they go lower in octave, but it's still kind of like layered perfectly with the guitar solo or guitar sample that they used. And I feel like from that point on, it's kind of like you should already be expecting something different. And obviously we did was Rick Ross's verse. I don't know, I love this song. Like, I think it's like, I've listened to it before, but it's been so many years that I don't know. It's kind of like I rekindled my love with it. And it's just great.
Yeah, it's really great stuff. I really enjoyed it because Dom knows this year was my first year of actually listening to Kanye and diving deep into his discography. Meaning I got to listen to this album for the very first time. And I was so excited. It was my first listen and it was just so great. And this was one of definitely the highlights. But to me, I know it's a bit cliche. It's the one track a lot of people reference from this album, but the truest peak of this album, the truest highlight of this album to me is the next song, Runaway by Kanye featuring Pusha T. And if you thought Dom's analysis of The Devil in a New Dress ran long, I could talk hours about just this song alone, dude. I love this song so much because it's just like, it's probably easily one of the most recognizable songs of this new generation, and all you need to hear is the first piano key. And it's been proven. I mean, obviously, it makes sense because it was at his own concert, but there's literally videos of Kanye playing this song at his concert where all he does is hit one key on the piano and the crowd goes wild because they already know what song's coming next. And it's just, like, I don't know. It's probably because I have a huge soft spot for, like, pianos and especially in, like, hip-hop beats and stuff. But the opening piano of this song is just absolutely just beautiful. And that, like, it's just the same note over and over until he hits a different one. And then, it does that. And then right when you think it's going to hit the note to, like, drop again from the note it's playing, it gets you into the beat. And this is the one part where, like, the sort of, like, distorted voice kind of works. And I also love, the message behind it. But before I get really into it, I want to know, what were your guys' thoughts on this song?
Personally, I also did enjoy the piano. Listening, because this was also my first time listening to it, so I've never... I wouldn't expect just, like, the sort of just piano, just at the start. However, going into Kanye's verse and such and such, I really did enjoy it. It was kind of weird listening to the lyrics. Just hearing the part about she finds pictures in my email, and then that point on was kind of a little weird. And then the part of having a toast for the who, and then it just I'm not sure how to explain it. I enjoyed it. was kind of weird that I enjoyed it, but I enjoyed it. And then going in from the run away from me, baby, just I enjoyed that part as well. The ending, personally, I don't want to say it strayed for too long, but I want to say it strayed for too long. I did. I kind of enjoyed like the raw bit of. I would assume it was Kanye just like breathing into the microphone, but like going along with like the music, and it was. How would you say it? It felt as if it was Kanye's own personal doing. Like he just decided to throw that in last minute, but it sounded so nice in his mind. I would assume that everyone else would enjoy it, and yeah, I enjoyed it as well. How would you say it? But not only that, but like the piano still sounded okay, and I enjoyed it, and I loved it. I'm not gonna lie, I really did enjoy the piano part. The ending part, yeah, as I stated before, I feel like it did stray for too much, but I still enjoyed it.
What about you, Gio?
I was listening to the song in the morning before the podcast started, but I was doing like other stuff. I literally just saw that it's 9 minutes long.
Yeah,
I don't know why my brain didn't realize that the song was going on for so long, but it's 9 minutes long, and that's like such a Kanye thing to do.
Yeah. To
add, I feel like.
Oh, continue.
I was gonna say like this. I really like the instrumentals of the song. Like that's like the biggest highlight for me from this album is the instrumentals. For the theme of the song, I don't really care for it. It's kind of, I don't know. It's not my cup of tea. But yeah, I like it. It's like a 50-50, like a situational song you listen to. But yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah, so to kind of add to what Dom is talking about, obviously, the whole kind of message of the song is about like being a jerk in a sense, and it's funny because Dom brought up Rick Ross having to rewrite his verse. Pusha T actually said that he had to rewrite his verse like 4 times because Kanye kept telling him you need to be more of a jerk on your track, and during the time he actually was going through what he described as a relationship scandal, and so like he already views himself as like the biggest jerk in the world, but now here's Kanye telling him he has to be more of a jerk. Sorry, excuse me. Sorry. He's saying him he has to be more of a jerk on this track and all that, and he has to be like real scathing with a lot of the stuff he's saying. So like I can understand reading the lyrics and obviously not being the most invested in it. I was kind of the same way at first, especially with how Kanye starts off his first verse, but looking at it in the context of the story being told, I fully understand, what like the message is, it's about, I understand what point they're trying to get across, and like, I just really enjoyed the track overall. It's really good. I really enjoyed this track. Like I said, it's my biggest highlight from it. I do enjoy Pusha T's verse, and it's crazy to think that like it took him 4 tries to get to this point, but good on Kanye for really pushing him to this point. But my favorite part of all time, or it's 2, I will always enjoy Kanye's final verse, and then just the outro of it all. But that final verse kind of just I don't know why, but it always just hits different to me, and like he really sold it really well emotionally with the tone and manner he spoke the verse, because I just really I just really love it, especially like the last lines where he's like I guess you knew of that advantage because you could blame me for everything, and I don't know how I'm gonna manage if one day you just up and leave. I really love that because it sends the message home about, the D-bags that they're talking about on the song. That truly does sound like something that would come from someone like that, where it's like they keep messing up and all that. I mean, that's one of the lines that's repeated, obviously, in the chorus, or the pre-chorus. I always find something wrong, and you've been putting up with it for way too long. It's like, that really adds to the whole topic that they're talking about, because it's like how many times have we seen that where someone keeps doing wrong and keeps messing up, and yet finally when the person leaves, they don't know what to do with their lives? It's like, that's just a perfect amalgamation of what they're trying to tell, in a sense. And I know maybe you guys don't enjoy it as much as I do, but there's just something about that long outro. I'm not lying to you. I never skip the outro. I sit through the full, 4 minutes or so of just the auto-tuned humming and distortion. I don't know what it is about it. I literally want to call it therapeutic in a way of just anytime it comes on, I sit there. Like, there are times where I'm doing something, and when the outro comes on, I just sit there and listen to it, despite all it is pure distorted and auto-tuned humming and basically inaudible singing. Like, you can't really tell what he's saying, but yet, like, I don't know, there's something I just love about it. And there was something that I saw that I know it's the biggest, like, that's the biggest reach and like English teacher level of analysis, of like coming up with the most outrageous sort of analysis. But I always loved it when someone said this about the song. They view the outro as the way that how would you put it, like the way they put it, they thought of it as kind of how like society perceives Kanye, and it makes even more sense nowadays with all that's happened with Kanye, where they were like, it just really encapsulates how society views Kanye, where even though he has like this message that he wants to speak, it's never really heard, and he's often drowned out by society, either like not wanting to listen to him or to write narratives and misperceive a lot of what he writes about, what he talks about, and all that. And I don't know, I thought that was just a really good little analysis of what is just 4 minutes of auto-tune distortion. But definitely a track I love the most off this album. Moving on to our next song, Hell of a Life. I'm gonna be honest, I don't remember too much about this song.
Yeah, I would have. I've already taken a good listen to it beforehand, but this one was like a bit more explicit. I mean, like straight off the bat, we're talking about actresses, not the ones that act in movies, but you know what? I think this one, Hell of a Life, was just mainly more kind, just expressing the sort of life he wants to live. Like an insane life filled with, I guess, the vices of human beings. And I'm pretty sure that's just the majority of the whole song, that Kanye just wants to live a hell of a life. He wants to just go all out. He doesn't care. But personally, I didn't enjoy it as much because it sounded like a pirate sea shanties, and it sounded. I mean, I like the intro, but it's just when he started saying, how would you say it? What was it? When he's talking about religion, not specific religion, but that one specific bar, that verse when he's talking about, tell me when you think we crossed the line, no more drugs for me, and blah 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 blah. It sounded like a pirate sea shanty, and it sounded off. It didn't sound Kanye. It just, I don't know. I didn't enjoy the song. I'll be honest.
That's what I was gonna ask you guys about, because I recognize like the melody of it, but I don't know from where. And it's it was like, I was listening to the song, every time that he kept repeating that same melody, the one that sounds like a sea shanty for you. I don't know. It kept bothering me because I couldn't remember where it was from or where else I heard it, and I don't know. That just made me dislike the song. And then listening to it again, I really hate the instrumentals, and yeah, I don't know, I'm not a big fan of this song.
The only thing I will say I'm a fan of, and it's because I literally just read it right now. This is something I'd never even noticed. Despite the song being called "Hell of a Life," you never actually hear him pronounce the F. So the entire thing is like an illusion, in the sense of saying, yeah, he's living one hell of a life, but since he never pronounces the F, it's actually he's living a hell of a lie. You know, all this stuff that he's talking about. This is probably like him trying to say, this is what people think my life is, and they think I'm living a hell of a life, but in reality, my life is a lie, which kind of goes back to the theme of power, you know, where, you know, that's what power does to people, where they get to a point where they feel like they have to lie about the life they're living in order to keep up a certain image of themselves. But other than that, not much more to say on that track. The next track, though, again, another one of my favorites. Again, probably has to do with the piano beat on it, but also I just love the entire emotional atmosphere tied to this song. It's really one of my favorites. What were your guys' thoughts on "Blame Game" featuring John Legend?
Personally, for "Blame Game," I understand the overall message is going always back and forth, trying to throw the blame at, you know, your partner, or your, you know, who. But personally, it's just, how would you say it? I didn't enjoy it as much as I thought I would. I like John Legend's parts here when he came, you know, back and forth into the song. But it's just I understand the message, but I just didn't enjoy the song. And I'm not sure how to explain it, but it's just, and I'm pretty sure Chris Rock was at the end, right? Or am I incorrect?
That's Chris Rock at the end.
Yeah, I just enjoyed the part with Chris Rock. I didn't enjoy. I'm not sure how to explain it, but I just thought it was kind of comedic with just Chris Rock right there at the end. What was kind of funny was that in that portion of the song, I'm pretty sure the background piano. I'm pretty sure there was piano playing in the background still. So it was like dramatic music in the back. Not dramatic, but like nice the melodic music in the back while this sort of conversation was going on, and it was just kind of awkward for me. While every time Chris Rock would ask, "Who taught you?" and it was always the same recorded line that Yeezy taught me. It was not like a unique line every time. It was just Yeezy taught me, Ye taught me, Yeezy taught me. I just thought that was even more awkward for the song. But I'll be honest, I didn't enjoy it. I'll be honest. I like John Legend's parts with it, but I just didn't enjoy it.
Yeah, John Legend's definitely my favorite part on this song. Just the vocals that he has to sing that part is just, I really enjoyed the way he says it, you know. Especially because I just love the whole thing of, you know, like it's so true that's all sadly we do in society is play the blame game and try and blame someone else, you know. And never can we as people ever accept accountability on both sides, you know. Like, we can never recognize that two people can both be wrong in a situation instead of one having to be in the wrong completely and someone being free of the blame, you know. And because of that leads to the blame game where everyone just tries to blame each other for the issues at hand instead of being able to acknowledge who's in the wrong, who's in the right. Any thoughts from you, Gio?
I basically agree with both of you. The way that Dom described like that Chris Rock ending was perfect in my eyes, because it did feel very awkward.
Yeah,
I feel like that's like the perfect word for it, awkward. And then I agree with you in the sense that I really enjoyed John Legend's vocals in the beginning and just like his entire part, or parts I should say. But besides that, I don't really have much to say about it. It's kind of like, again, it's like a 50-50 situational song that I may or may not listen to again.
Interesting. All right. Our next track is Lost in the World. And the one thing I have to say, I know this song actually has a ton of samples in it, but I think the most impressive work I've seen from Kanye is this song, simply because he took Bon Iver's Woods and somehow still made it sound like it was saying I'm lost in the world, despite the song sample that he used actually being I'm up in the woods. but it to me it's one of the most like wonderful pieces of like work and sampling, because I don't know what it is. It literally just sounds like I'm lost in the woods, despite that not being the lyrics in the original song. Like I don't know if you guys hear it as well as I do, but whenever I hear it, it literally I never hear I'm up in the woods. I always hear I'm lost in the woods. And like I think that's just probably one of the most beautiful pieces of sampling I've seen, that he was able to take a song that isn't saying the words of his song and turned it into that.
Yeah, you could kind of like, I'm listening to it right now, you could kind of, yeah, it's kind of like once you know, it's like hard not to hear it anymore.
What other thoughts do you have on the song?
Oof. I for some reason, I don't know why, but the intro of the song was kind of weird listening with headphones. You could hear it in your ears. But aside from that, I enjoyed the rest of the song. It was nice. It was catchy. I like the beats. And now that you mentioned it, yeah, I'm hearing it right now, and yeah, I could definitely hear the flip that Kanye did with with the play on the words to match what he wants to say. Well, I'm lost in the woods. I mean, in the world. My bad, in the world. I enjoyed this song. I'll be honest. I did enjoy this song a lot.
Yeah. What about you, Joe?
I don't know. When I was listening to the album, I realized like the biggest issue for me personally about rap albums is like if they have like 10 plus songs, not even 10, maybe like 9 plus songs. It's kind of like by the end of it, like for me personally, it might be different for everybody, obviously, but it just feels like you just kind of want the album to end or like to go to something else. And I feel like at that point, that's where like I was in the album, because it was like after Runaway, it was kind of just like I just wanted to end already, and that's how I felt about it. And that's how I feel about most like Western albums that are like long.
Yeah, I feel you on that. There's a lot of times where it's like certain songs could definitely be cut from an album, and shorten it. Like I brought it up recently because they're dropping today. Gio was like, "Well, yeah, the Twice album that's dropping today is only 7 songs," and I was like, at first I was like, why is it only got to be 7? But then I realized, and I'm like, I've thought about all the albums I've listened to, and it's like very few albums I can tell you are 10 out of 10s that have probably more than 10 songs on them. Like definitely the Western side really needs to work, and it's funny because they've had all these years to work on it, but yet it's even worse now because they try and bloat these songs so that they can get more streams, because if there's more songs on an album that people listen to, it's more streams, but they don't realize how much they're diluting their content and making it terrible. Like Gio and I talked about it a bunch, but like that's truly the downfall of the Migos, is they oversaturated their content that already had a style that shouldn't have been oversaturated.
I feel like the problem with most albums nowadays is like it really feels like more of the same, at least to me. Because when you look at like this album by Kanye, like there's like a lot of like unique songs that are legendary in their own way. But then, like I'm not saying like these songs are bad, but they're definitely not on the same level as the other ones. And it just feels like more of the same from Kanye. And that's where it gets boring. So, and that's the case for like most Western albums, I'd say. Because when you look at like different genres, because it's not like a specific thing they're going for, there's like a lot of like subgenres within the genre. So they could basically like have an album that's like full of different stuff. But then with hip hop, it's kind of hard to do that, because you kind of have to like stay, because like, hip hop has its own subgenres, but those subgenres are like very similar to each other. So even if you try to do like different, like a song is like this, but then the next song is like this other like subgenre, they're like, because they're so similar to each other, it sounds the same. not sound the same, but it's like very similar to each other. So you can't really have like that uniqueness going from song to song unless you make an absolute banger.
Yeah, I definitely feel that. Any final thoughts? Because the next song, or it's like quote unquote song, the final track of the album is "Who Will Survive in America," but it's not really a song. Instead, it's how would you? I don't know if it's a song or a speech. That's the thing.
It's like there's music in the background, but it's like a woke speech per se.
Yeah, I think that's the way to put it. It's like it's very like it's very I don't know what's the like description to put it. I wouldn't necessarily call it woke, especially because like nowadays people have really diluted what's woke and what isn't, you know. But like it's
True.
definitely like it's a speech that ties into a lot of the themes that Kanye talked about, in the sense of like, or it doesn't really tie into a lot of the stuff Kanye talked about on the album. It more so ties into just the events that led to this album, in a sense, you know.
Yeah.
Because it talks a lot about, you know, like, you know, the troubles that people go through in this life, you know, and, you know, being held down in their country, you know, and all this different stuff, you know, especially like a lot of it is, I mean, see, this is the thing, is like, if I say political, a lot of people are going to like say that, oh, this topic isn't political, you know, it's just a general topic. But like, I only say political because this is definitely something you'd hear like at a like political rally, you know, and it technically is political because it's talking about a lot of different political things, you know, but you know, it ties into like, you know, all that essentially a lot of like the bad in the world that's happening, especially in America itself. And then, you know, it kind of really ties into the events that preceded, because, you know, the outro is asking, you know, who will survive in America. And it's like, you know, if someone like Kanye can mess up that badly to the point where he had to leave America in order to recover, you know, it's like it really kind of sends home that message of like, you know, there's a lot of crazy stuff happening in the world that we just kind of have to ask ourselves who will survive, you know.
True.
It's a nice little outro, you know. But final thoughts on just the album as a whole.
Oof. I would have to say it has ups and downs, but I feel like it's ups with Runaway, Devil in New Dress, Power, and you know, Dark Fantasy. I feel like it definitely, them being the main flagship songs, in my opinion, definitely, I guess, brings out the highlights more of the song. You know, like the how would you say, the best of Kanye during this point in time. You know, after what occurred with, you know, with the situation with when it went on stage and said Beyonce was the best of all time. How would you say it? I feel like this sort of album would be the turnaround, to bring him back up. And I would have to say, but I mean, I would have to say as well that the amount of effort and time he placed into it's pretty crazy. Like the amount of artists, the amount of samples he introduces, but not only that, but like the cover albums. For those who have not seen the cover images, they're blurred out, like, you know, to the normal public. But if you were to see the actual uncensored versions, it does get a little bit gruesome. Not gruesome, but, you know, a little bit explicit. However, I'm pretty sure there's like 4 or 5 cover images that like portray like a story of Kanye and of his situation during at the time. And I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
But aside from that, I enjoyed it. It was very high profile. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, there was 5 different album covers. I actually, as controversial as it may be to people, I don't have the original cover, because, you know, I don't know if you guys know this, but on Apple Music you can actually change the album covers. You have to do it on your computer's version of iTunes, not Apple Music but iTunes. But I actually changed the album cover to a different one that it's similar to one of the 5 that was revealed, but instead of it being like an actual human face. It's the bear from the graduation or the.
Oh yeah.
What is the trilogy called? Is it graduation trilogy? Is that what they call it? Or is it the college trilogy? I forget what they call
We
it.
have the graduation. I'm not sure.
But
I'm not sure.
yeah, but what would your guys' final ratings be for the album? And all I'll say is, I mean this in a joking way, but also in a pretty serious way. Be careful what rating you give it, because don't forget, people don't let Anthony Fantano live down his rating of this album. And also his recent album reviews that I won't get into on this podcast, but that was some pretty crazy stuff that happened to him. But what would your final ratings be?
This is gonna be like a very difficult album to rate because I don't know, like how like this goes back to like the whole having your own criteria for your ratings, and then if you look at this album, it has like absolute bangers, like legendary stuff, but then other songs are literally in my book they're misses, and it's like how would you like equate having legendary songs to poor songs in the same album, and then being able to rate it in a way that it does justice to the album, but it also doesn't like it isn't full of copium. You know what I mean?
That good.
I don't know. I feel like a 7 is fair for this album. A 7 out of 10.
Interesting.
Because like those 3 points that it lost are because of the songs that are misses for me.
I would give it. I want to give it an 8, but following what Gio states, I mean, I don't know. I'm gonna give the album an 8 only because I feel like the highlights of the song, of the 5 songs, that stand out the most out of the album, really do bring up the album more higher than what the lower, the bad songs, as I would say, bring it down, if that makes sense. I'll give it an 8 out of 10.
Interesting. So I'm not gonna lie here and be honest. When I first listened to this album, I thought it was like a 10 out of 10 because there was only one song on it that I considered a miss. But like as I gave it more listens since I first heard it, like I said, there's some songs that they're good. They just don't hit as well as the highs of this. Like the peaks of this album that I consider the peaks. It's Dark Fantasy, Power, All of the Lights, Devil in a New Dress, Runaway, and then they're not necessarily peaks, but I still really enjoy Blame Game and Lost in the World, just not on the level as the other ones, except probably Lost in the World a bit higher. But I really like those tracks, but then it's like maybe with a bit more re-listens, I don't know, I can give better opinions on Gorgeous, So Appalled, Hell of a Life and stuff, but like and Monster, but like how many more re-listens can I give to something? Like I think that's the way I kind of feel about it. Like I obviously believe that you should give stuff multiple listens in order to have like a defined rating, but like at some point, like how Gio's saying, you got to realize that at some point you're probably just trying to cope with the fact that you aren't enjoying it as much as you want to. I think I'm gonna follow suit with Dom. I think an 8 to an 8.5 is like the fairest rating I can give it, but I'm more so leaning towards an 8 just because of the amount of songs that not necessarily, well, some of them were misses, but I think an 8's fair. But with that being said, thank you all for joining us for these 2 episodes of the Rule 34 podcast reviewing Kanye West.
Wait, honestly, I feel like an 8 is like the right number for it. I'm gonna change mine to 8 because 8 makes more sense than 7. Because 7 is like barely making it, but 8 is making it, but not enough to make it any higher. 8 out of 10 is like the perfect rating for this.
All right. Well,
sorry for interrupting, by the way.
It's all good. Thank you all for joining for this episode. I've been your host, Jack, joined by my fellow co-hosts,
Dominic Castillo,
Kanye West.
Thank you all for joining, and as always, if it exists, we have an opinion on it. Thank you, and we'll catch you all next week for a new episode.